If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes today, I wouldn't have believed it. Sophia would do this to me. My hands were shaking, I could barely hold the phone, and I struggled to send her a WeChat message. Sophia, where are you? Sophia made a gesture to keep quiet, then said gently to the phone. I made some sweet soup for you and am sending it to you. As soon as she finished speaking, my phone screen lit up. David reached out and touched her head, his tone full of guilt. It's all my fault. I can't give you what you want. But she held his hand and said with a smile. I will say that I had a car accident on the road and the child is gone. With his personality, he will be so guilty that he will die. When I get the house and car I want, we will get married. He broke us up, and he owes us these. My breath stagnated. RV, I did promise to buy her a house. That was our dream wedding house, our future home together. But I never thought that the person she fantasized about living in it with her was not me. I looked down at the pregnancy-preserving medicine in my hand. My originally expectant mood was now filled with endless irony and bitterness. At this time, my mother sent me another message urging me to get married. James, didn't you say you would bring your girlfriend back tonight? Where is she? We have been together for 6 years, but I didn't tell my parents because I was worried that they would despise her background. She was pregnant, and I was planning to take her home without asking for permission. I sighed and said, Mom, let's make an appointment for the daughter of your good friend you mentioned last time. My mother seemed unconvinced and called me directly. Son, do you really agree to a blind date? If so, how about tonight? I nodded and said, okay. Olivia. There is nothing wrong with a family business marriage. I turned around and threw the medicine into the trash can, then pretended nothing had happened and went back to the company. Sure enough, just as I arrived at the company, Sophia called me. James, I was hit by a car. The car was driving very fast and it fled. She spoke incoherently, with tears in her voice. What about our baby? If I had heard her say this before, I would have been heartbroken and wanted to run to her side immediately. But now, I just felt sick, extremely sick. I deliberately put the phone away and said coldly, no signal here, hanging up. Half an hour later, she sent me a photo of herself lying on the hospital bed with the caption, James, the doctor said the baby is gone. I am very sad. Can you come and accompany me tonight? I smiled and did not reply. At this time, the secretary came in with a document and asked, James sir, the new employee will be David's supervisor. Which project would be best for me to be assigned to? I casually flipped through the resume of a high school graduate. Sophia begged her to be her friend, but I didn't even look at her. Sophia was kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see her friend without a job. Now I understand that I was overthinking everything. She just wanted to keep her first love under my nose so that they could get closer. I looked at the secretary and said, tell him that he doesn't need to come. We will give him the compensation he deserves. After hearing this, the secretary was not shocked at all. Instead, he seemed relieved and said, okay, James sir. The HR department was not very satisfied with him. I nodded, I understand. You go and handle it. After finishing my work, I found that there were many more missed calls and WeChat messages from Sophia asking questions. James, what's going on? Your company's HR said no. David, did they ask you? David, are you the one behind this? They are too much. Just fire them all. Seeing that I didn't reply, she started to act pitiful again. James, my stomach is so uncomfortable. The doctor said that I am weak after the miscarriage and cannot be too angry, so you should vent your anger for me as soon as possible. When will you come to see me? I am so scared to be alone in the hospital. I took a deep breath, not knowing what to say in response for a moment, so I just turned off my phone. In the evening, I arrived at the agreed restaurant. Olivia arrived early and smiled faintly when she saw me. James, we meet again. I paused, and she continued. Wow, you are so forgetful. Didn't you always pull me to marry me when you were little? I remembered that she was the little girl who always came to my house to play when I was little. I only knew that she was the daughter of a friend of my father, and later her family went abroad, so we didn't keep in touch much. Seeing that I looked depressed, Olivia asked, are you unhappy to see me, your blind date? I quickly shook my head. No, I'm happy. I'm very happy today. The food came, and it was all my favorite. Olivia handed me a gift and said, it's been a long time since we last met. I don't have anything to give you. I asked my aunt for this. She said it was your favorite record. After dinner, I agreed to have a conversation with her. Olivia. Family marriage. Olivia laughed at my childishness, but I am very sure the one who has been with me for 6 years, Sophia, far from Olivia, understands me. When I got home, I took a look at the kitchen. Not to mention the sugar water, there was not even a trace of cooking. I sneered. Sophia's lies are getting worse and worse, but I believe them all in the past. I started to organize Sophia's things. I just wanted her to disappear from my life as soon as possible. But unexpectedly, I found a gift list that clearly listed all the things I like. I don't even know what I like to eat, but David remembers my preferences clearly. Next to the list, there is a photo album lying quietly. I opened it and saw that it was full of pictures of Sophia and David. When I turned the page, 2 tickets to Switzerland fell out, with a sticker on them, "This is me and David." The 7th stop of my trip around the world. Looking forward to it. Turns out, accompanying my bestie to relax abroad is fake, but accompanying my first love on vacation is real. In the past, I always proposed to travel with her, but she always refused with various reasons. I just felt a sharp pain in my heart, and it would be a lie to say that I was not sad. I sat on the balcony, smoked a whole pack of cigarettes, and then called my secretary. "Please help me sell the house in the garden community." The secretary hesitated and then said, "I was just looking for you. Sophia called you many times, saying that she couldn't get in touch with you. Do you want to?" I interrupted, "No, you don't need to answer her calls in the future." I packed my things, and it was already midnight. At this time, there was a sound of an electronic code at the door, followed by Sophia's hurried cry. "James, are you home? Why did you change your password? I am Sophia. I am too scared to be alone in the hospital. I miss you." Seeing that I didn't answer, the man outside the door, Sophia, lowered his voice and said, "James, I don't know what happened. I feel so weird today. I don't know if he's mad at me for the miscarriage. Don't worry, if I shout here, he will definitely open the door for me out of pity. He has always been obedient to me, and he believes whatever I say." I put away my reluctance and walked straight to the guest bedroom. "Don't you want to act pitiful? Then I will help you." The next morning, I opened the door and saw Sophia. Behind her was David. She raised her head, her face full of anger and grievance. "James, what do you mean? You changed the password at home. Do you know how long I have been waiting here? And why didn't you come to the hospital to see me last night?" I looked down at her and said in a cold tone, "Why should I go to see you?" Sophia was stunned, then her eyes turned red and she was about to cry. "What are you talking about, James? I was in a car accident while trying to bring you some sweet soup, and my child was gone. You still ask why?" As she spoke, tears rolled down her cheeks. "That was our baby." Sophia's shouting attracted the neighbors in the villa area to watch. The neighbors who didn't know the whole story began to blame me. "You have lived together for so long. You should get married, right? The girl even had a miscarriage for you. How can you be so cold-blooded? I heard that you are the president of the company, but I didn't expect you to be such a person. You throw it away after using it. Are you starting to dislike her?" Listening to these words, Sophia cried and looked at everyone. "No, James is not that kind of person. We love each other very much. I don't allow you to say that about him." Then, she turned around and looked at me with a wronged look on her face. "James, are you blaming me for accidentally losing our baby? It doesn't matter. We can have another one." I was about to speak when David threw a punch at me, hitting me squarely on the face. With red eyes, he asked, "Are you still a man? How much she suffered for you. Do you know how helpless and scared she was when she was lying on the hospital bed? You are her boyfriend, but you don't care. Don't you want to take responsibility?" I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth and looked towards David. I punched him in the chin. Seeing him fall to the ground in an instant, I laughed in my heart. My martial arts training was not in vain. I pointed to David, saying, "Don't you really want to be responsible? Just take responsibility." Sophia looked at me in panic, not daring to help David. "James," I said, "I and David are just friends, and we are innocent. You didn't open the door for me last night, so we came here out of worry. As my boyfriend, you are not grateful to him, but you even beat him. How could you do this?" At this time, the secretary came over with a few agents. "James, sir, they said they wanted to take pictures of the room." I nodded and motioned them to go in. But Sophia rushed over like crazy and grabbed the agent and asked, "What are you doing?" The agent was startled by her and answered cautiously, "James wants to sell his house, so we came here to take pictures." Sophia suddenly looked at me with a puzzled look in her eyes. Then, as if she suddenly understood something, she said with a sob, "James, you are planning to sell this place and buy a new house for our wedding, right?" I know you don't come to see me because you feel guilty about me. I don't blame you. Maybe it's just that we are not destined to have a baby yet. I sneered, walked behind the door, and threw her luggage out. I just think this house is unlucky. Sophia, we broke up. Sophia's face turned pale instantly, as if she had heard something incredible. She looked at me with wide eyes. Break up? James, what are you talking about? Did I hear you wrong? We are getting married soon. She tried to get close to me, but I pushed her to the ground in disgust and took out the video I took at the hospital that day. Sophia, you are so disgusting. Even after all this, you still refuse to admit it. When you ate my food, lived in my house, spent my money, and kept a mistress, why didn't you think that this would be the end? Sophia shook her head and tried to struggle, so I simply opened the video and turned up the volume. I want to see how thick your skin is. In the video, Sophia and David pitted each other and conspired loudly. After watching the video, her face changed drastically, and she reached out to grab the phone, crying and saying, "It's not like that, James. Believe me, the baby is really ours. I miscarried accidentally." The neighbors around finally reacted and began to blame Sophia. "You went to get an abortion on your own, and you acted so pitiful, and you even brought your male mistress with you. There are all kinds of people in this world." I pointed at her belly and taunted her. "You didn't have an abortion because of me. So, you think I'm stupid and rich?" Sophia, lying on the ground, looked panicked. "Even so, you can't break up with me. You promised me to marry me." At this time, Olivia walked up behind her and took her hand. "I am getting married, but the bride is not you." After saying that, I walked straight to Olivia. Sophia, seeing this, rushed over and pushed Olivia away, asking in a shrill voice, "Who are you? Do you know James? Does he have a girlfriend?" Olivia looked down at her and said, "I know, but you broke up, didn't you?" In fact, I told her about it. She was not too surprised after hearing it, but just sighed that I met the wrong person. David also got up from the ground, pointed at me, and said, "Sophia had an abortion in the hospital, but you went to marry another woman behind her back. Are you still a man?" I laughed at his behavior, but before I could say anything, the neighbor couldn't stand it anymore. "You are a man, but you let a woman take advantage of you. James's money supports you." David's face turned red. "Why do you care so much? It's none of your business." I ignored them and just pulled Olivia's hand and went. Olivia sat next to me, glanced at me cautiously, and said, "My James sir, have you really thought it through? You really don't want to piss her off?" I looked at the driver and said, "Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." Olivia looked shocked, then blushed and lowered her head. When she arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, she found that the relatives and friends of the two families had been waiting there for a long time. Olivia said, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you last night. I was planning to give you a surprise." But he said happily, "I have been waiting for this day for a long time. In fact, I have liked you for a long time. It was me who proposed the marriage." Therefore, the proposal process went smoothly, and the two families decided to get the marriage certificate first and then hold the wedding. A few days later, I returned to the company and met David. The secretary said in panic, "James sir, I was just about to call you. David has been asking us to give an explanation." I nodded and said, "Let him come in and talk." David frowned and yelled, "Why do you want to go in? I'm going to say it here. You are such a big company, and you gave me an offer, and then stood me up again. Does it comply with the labor law?" I looked at him and said with a half smile, "It doesn't comply, so what? Don't you have self-awareness?" David probably didn't expect me to say that, so he stiffened his neck and shouted at the people in the company. "You James Mr. imagines that I and Sophia haven't even said he slandered me, but he refused to hire me because of his personal emotions. How can such a person be qualified to be the president?" I was so angry at his look. "This is our G family's business. If I don't do it, will you?" I turned to look at the secretary. "Call the police." At this time, Sophia hurried in and looked at him with heartache. David said, "How are you? You said they beat you. How could they beat people?" The secretary's face turned pale. "We never beat anyone. There are surveillance cameras here." Sophia then saw me and let go as if she had been electrocuted. David said, "James, we have been in a cold war for a few days. Why haven't you forgiven me yet?" I said, "It was all a misunderstanding. I even bought a ticket to Switzerland in advance and was planning to go with you." She cried, "We have been together for 6 years. Let's not quarrel over such a small matter, okay?" I pointed at David and asked, Switzerland? That's not you and David's seventh stop of your trip around the world? How come you are going with me? My colleagues in the company started to whisper. Hey, doesn't James' wife love her very much? Why are they breaking up now? Isn't it obvious? It must be because of the man next to her. At this time, Olivia came over with a bag of invitations, saw the situation, and asked in confusion. Husband, what's wrong? Husband, almost everyone looked at me. Sophia reacted, then suddenly grabbed Olivia's hair. You mistress, I and James have been together for 6 years. Who are you calling your husband? I held Olivia in my arms. Wife, are you okay? Olivia stroked her messy hair and walked towards Sophia. She slapped her in the face and said, I and James have already got the marriage certificate. I'm sorry you cheated on me. You've been together for 6 years, so what? You and your pretty boy have been together for more than 6 years. Sophia was stunned by a slap. Olivia's bag fell to the ground, and the invitations were scattered all over the floor. Olivia picked up the invitation, looked at everyone, her tone calm but firm. I came here today to hand out invitations to everyone. It's our wedding. Everyone remember to come. Sophia shook her head violently, looked at me in disbelief, and said in a crying voice, James, shouldn't you marry me? I took out my phone, handed her the photo album I had taken before, and sneered. I thought you would know better and leave, but I didn't expect you to be so shameless. You know these photos better than I do. How long have you been cheating? Sophia snatched my phone, threw it to the ground, stomped on it a few times, and said through gritted teeth, James, if you hadn't stolen my love, I and David would have been together for a long time. What does it matter if you give a little for us? I sneered and looked at Sophia, saying, I stole your love? Sophia, I have the WeChat message you used to confess your love to me. Sophia, with an innocent and aggrieved look, said, At that time you clearly advised me to be more open-minded. If you hadn't said David doesn't love me anymore, how can I? I didn't understand why Sophia would say that I was the one who caused the misunderstanding between them. Now I understand. It turns out that my kind consolation at the beginning became her attempt to sow discord. I pointed at Sophia and said, But you said he cheated on me at that time. Should I still say he loves you very much? Sophia shook her head guiltily. I looked at the smashed phone on the ground and said to the secretary, Have you called the police for destroying property? The secretary looked outside the door and said, I just called the police. They should be here soon. Sophia wanted to leave. This is a disgusting company. I won't come even if they beg me to come. Let's go. As soon as I finished speaking, the police arrived. After understanding the whole story, the police took Sophia back to the police station for questioning, and as the party who suffered property loss, I had to go as well. When I arrived at the police station, I refused to reconcile. Sophia had no choice but to grit her teeth and pay for my cell phone bill. There is less than a week left before the family wedding. The incident was reported to my parents. She actually started a live broadcast. James, crying outside the family villa. I and James have been together for 6 years and even had a miscarriage for him, but he went on a blind date and got married behind my back. My mother looked unhappy and shook her head, saying, Did you make a mistake? James never mentioned having a girlfriend. Sophia, as if she hadn't expected it, cried even harder. How is that possible? I think it was you who instigated us to break up. James, does the family look down on me and think I am Cinderella, and want to separate us? It must be you. If it weren't for you, James wouldn't suddenly be so cold to me. The marriage between the two families had already caused a lot of buzz, and as a result, the number of people in the live broadcast room increased rapidly. Netizens spoke up for her. All rich people are like this. They throw away things after the novelty wears off. Isn't this a playboy? Resolutely boycott all products of the G Group. My mother said helplessly and angrily. So what do you want? Sophia wiped away tears and said, I don't want to do anything, but James' family should compensate me for the loss of my youth. After 6 years of relationship, they aborted my child. $10 million is not a lot, right? Seeing so many people supporting her in the live broadcast room, my mother didn't want to make things too ugly. Just as she was about to agree, I walked out of the villa and sneered. $10 million? I haven't asked you to compensate me for my loss yet. You secretly aborted our child and cheated on me behind my back. David, why didn't you say these things? My mother looked at me in shock. You, how come you? Then she lowered her voice and said, Why are you so cowardly? Sophia clearly knew that I had evidence that she had cheated on me, but she still came to make trouble with such righteousness. I looked at her and asked word by word. Do you think I will be soft-hearted and let you go? Do you think I will agree to your request? As I said that, I posted all the photos I had taken of them and their conversations in the hospital on social platforms. The spectators love this kind of excitement the most, and I can't let them eat a little bit without eating a little bit. Sophia looked at me anxiously. James, you were not like this before. Do you really have no feelings for me at all? A few minutes later, netizens who read my social platform began to scold Sophia. Oh my god, they go on this trip once a year. Switzerland is the 7th stop, which means she cheated on him in the first year with her enemy brother. She had the abortion on purpose. Unforgivable. How terrible. It turns out she wanted to make her enemy brother feel guilty, so that she could get money to support his mistress. A shameless scumbag. A lover who relies on women for support. Lock him up. Sophia quickly turned off the live broadcast, pointed at me, and yelled. But the child I aborted is also yours. You should give me this little compensation. My mother was furious and retorted. How do you know whether your child is ours? James or that pretty boy's? Sophia shouted at the top of his lungs, as if he had suffered a great injustice. It's just James. If you don't believe me, I'll ask the hospital to do a paternity test. I sneered, whether it's mine or not, so what? We're over. After saying that, I turned and went into the villa. No matter how she yelled and cursed outside, I was too lazy to even look at her. 2 days later, I accompanied Olivia to try on a wedding dress. The white wedding dress made her look even more radiant, and I was a little dazed. Suddenly, a sharp alarm sounded from my cell phone. I looked down and saw that it was the entry alarm of the house in the suburbs. I then remembered the password of the house. Sophia knows that too. I clicked on the surveillance video and saw Sophia and David. She was drunk and David was half hugging her. The two stumbled and leaned against the door. Olivia glanced at the phone screen and asked me with a half smile. Are you jealous? I shook my head and sneered. Now she can't harass us anymore. Without saying anything else, I continued to try on the wedding dress happily. I put on my headphones and stared at the phone screen. In the screen, Sophia was kissing David. The woman rubbed his neck and uttered sickeningly sweet words. David, I didn't expect that, James. She paused, then said. Well, if we get pregnant now, I will tell him that the baby was not aborted. David, panting, hands in Sophia's clothes, said impatiently. I can't wait any longer. Why don't we just stay at the door? There's no one here anyway. Sophia bit his earlobe and moaned. Anywhere you want. Then, she said with a hint of sarcasm. That James is so stupid. He must not have thought about how many times we had done this in that house before. Even though I drew a line with Sophia, I couldn't stop my anger when I heard these words. I quickly saved the video and called the police. Officer, there is an alarm outside my house. Can you arrange for someone to come with me to check it out? After hanging up the phone, I pulled Olivia. He gently kissed the back of her hand and said, Come on, I'll take you to see a good show. Half an hour later, I showed up at the door of a villa in the suburbs with a group of media friends who had heard the news and 2 confused policemen. On the steps outside the villa, 2 disheveled people were performing an unbearable scene. Under the dim streetlights, the scene looked like 2 entangled fleshworms, which made people feel sick. The policeman raised a flashlight, shining the dazzling beam directly on the 2 naked bodies. What are you doing? In the middle of the night, in a public place. David, frightened, pushed away Sophia, hurriedly covering her key parts. But she held his neck tightly and giggled. What are you doing, David? Happy. Her drunken voice echoed in the night sky, indescribably wanton. David quickly broke free, put on his clothes in a hurry, and pointed at the media friends behind me with a grim face. What are you filming? I'm suing you for violating my portrait rights. The 2 policemen looked at each other in amazement, then took the 2 men to the police station. In the police station, after sobering up, Sophia saw me and immediately put on a pitiful look. She stumbled over to me, pulled my sleeve, and said in a sobbing voice, I knew you still cared about me. Do you know that when I was drunk, my mind was full of you? She raised her head and looked at me with tearful eyes, trying to arouse my former sympathy. My friend couldn't bear it anymore, so she took out her phone and played the video in front of her. Your mind is full of James. What were you doing just now? Huh? With your true love, David, an X-rated movie is being shown in front of my house? He paused deliberately and said in a mocking tone. It's really wonderful. After watching the video, Sophia's face turned pale instantly, her mouth opened wide, and she couldn't speak for a long time. David, sitting aside, stared at us with hatred and said with gritted teeth, "If these videos are sent out, I will sue you to death and make you pay for it." As he said that, he slammed the table and said, "You just let them take videos of me like this? Are you still police officers if you do this?" The policeman held his forehead helplessly and said, "We also took some videos. This is evidence that you broke into someone else's house illegally. But don't worry, the videos taken by our law enforcement cameras will not be sent out." Sophia stammered. "We didn't even get in. How can that be considered a break-in?" I sneered, took out my phone, pulled out the surveillance video I had just recorded, and handed it to the police. "This is evidence. The truth of the matter is here." David looked at me gratefully and choked up. "Yes," she volunteered. "I didn't do this to help her." Sophia, but want to feel disgusted with Sophia. After watching the video, the police frowned and shouted at Sophia. "Madam, you are slandering others and making a false report to the police. This is against the law. Do you know that?" Sophia looked at me gloomily, and suddenly seemed to give up struggling and quibbling. She whispered, "I didn't expect it, James. Our 6 years together are not as good as the few short days you and your new love have spent together." Olivia retorted, "How do you know we've only been together for a few days? James and I were together earlier than you." Sophia said no more. Finally, the police detained the two for 3 days on the grounds of disturbing public order. That night, my media friend posted the censored video online. Netizens quickly found out that the place where the incident took place was a property under my name, and combined with the previous live broadcast of the incident, public opinion overwhelmingly believed that the person was Sophia. She and David will probably never dare to go online again in their lives. But what does this have to do with me? They have brought this upon themselves. I and Olivia's wedding was held as scheduled, and many people came that day. My mother burst into tears on the spot. "Olivia, James, you two are childhood sweethearts, and you finally got married." At this time, Sophia appeared. She was wearing a wedding dress, holding a microphone, and sang sadly. My mother's face turned pale and she yelled, "Who let her go? Security, get her out now." Sophia ignored her and looked at the guests in the audience, choking up and saying, "I'm pregnant with James' child, but he wants to marry another woman. Do you really want to bless them? Pregnant? So soon?" Olivia stared at her in disbelief and angrily threw the bouquet in his hand at her. "Sophia, you are crazy. What on earth do you want to do?" She pointed at Sophia's belly and questioned. "After we broke up, I have been living with James. How could he make you pregnant from a distance? This child is David's." Hearing this question, Sophia got so excited that she held her stomach and shouted, "It's David's, yes. I said it is. We have been together for 6 years. You know nothing." Sophia pretended to rush over, but David suddenly ran in from behind and grabbed her. "Sophia, didn't you say that you were with him just to get revenge on him? His eyes are red. Look at what you are doing now. You actually want my child to call him daddy? Dream on." Sophia threw away David with a loud bang. The glass bottle shattered, and the bright red liquid flowed out. Was it red wine or blood dripping down his forehead? The scene was in chaos, and the guests screamed and dodged. The security guards arrived quickly and took the man who had lost control of his emotions away. Sophia got under control. David, covering his bleeding head, his eyes bloodshot, asked, "Sophia, have you been lying to me too?" The two were so excited that they pushed each other and soon started fighting. Suddenly, a scream broke through the noisy air. Sophia fell to the ground in pain, and the large pieces of glass on the ground pierced her lower abdomen deeply. Her white wedding dress was instantly stained red. She looked at me for help. "Ah! It hurts, James." I instinctively called Olivia. The security guard separated the two again and took the injured David and Sophia to the hospital. After the wedding storm subsided, I and Olivia's ceremony was completed as planned, and the couple embraced each other happily with the blessings of the guests, starting a new life. Later, the hospital sent a message. Sophia was really pregnant, but the child was gone. David was arrested again for intentional injury. Sophia's news spread quickly, and she became a rat crossing the street that everyone wanted to kill. Her information was completely exposed, and no company was willing to hire her. A few months later, I accompanied Olivia to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. In the hospital corridor, I heard several nurses whispering, "Did you hear that? The woman lying on the bed in room A2 has aborted 4 or 5 children in the past few months. She seems to have a mental problem. She calls every man she sees the same name. It's really a sin." I followed their gaze and saw the woman lying on the bed. Sophia was disheveled, her eyes empty, and she kept muttering to herself. I'm sorry, James. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I will definitely have a child with you. The person who once wanted to make me feel guilty for the rest of my life is now trapped in feeling guilty about me. It really is what she deserves. Olivia came towards me with the report in her hand. What are you looking at? I greeted her and smiled. Nothing, just saw something that makes me happy. I took her hand and gently held it. By the way, let's go to a better private hospital. Olivia nodded. Okay. From then on, our lives were filled with happiness, year after year.